Hi everyone, I am back again. So I thought I'd do a bit of a quiltiage one. So this is some fabric, it's not for me. I bought this fabric for my mum to make her a quilt. And I bought it a few years ago. I knew that I wanted to make a quilt in a particular sort of style and colours and all of that, and I thought that this worked out best for it. So I thought this would be a really interesting exercise in how to maximise purchased fabric. I know a lot of people buy selections out of the same range, so this is all out of the same range, and I will try and find the name of it for you. This has also all been washed because I know that my mum will want to wash this quilt. Don't worry, she knows she's getting the quilt. This is not going to ruin the surprise. So this is Bohemian Vibe by Northcott Studio. Because it's going to be washed, it's important to wash the fabric first. If you're not going to wash it, don't wash it. But actually it's nice and it's quite sturdy. You know, it's a really good count of cotton. You can tell it's nice and thick. So what we have is a border print, which is amazing. Usually fabrics don't have border prints. Border prints, for those of you that don't know, are things that you could literally cut strips off of this and make it into borders. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different border prints. So we could either use the whole thing like that, we could take off tiny little pieces, we could use just 2 bits together. There's loads and loads of things that you can do with these border prints, and if you see them and you like manipulating fabric into like optical illusions, these are absolutely brilliant. If you saw my Lucy Boston quilt that I made a couple of years ago or a year ago, that is all border prints. So I know people go into shops and fall in love with ranges of fabric. I know that. We're gonna try and do a whole quilt top just out of a range of fabric, or sometimes people give them to you as presents and it's like they're so nice, but it's like it's hard if you've got a range of fabric to incorporate other fabrics into it. I find it's like using 1 is fine, using even 2 is fine, and with this you could definitely put in some batiks. These are always like batik colours, but often once you go past that it's hard, really hard to put in a different fabric. So the first thing I need to do is I need to measure each of these. I'm not necessarily going to include that one. Oh, it looks like a metre. Yeah, so that was a metre. That's literally just a metre off the whole width of the thing. And then this one, what have we got in that? Oh, another metre. I wonder what this will be. Do I think it'll be a metre? Yes, another metre. Oh, that's good, because I think this is just gorgeous. So we need to design a quilt that's going to use all of this fabric. So basically we've got 4 meters of fabric. It's slightly bigger than 4 square meters because the fabric is wider than it is long. Probably enough to get the binding of the quilt at the end. So my favourite is this one. I think it would be really nice to do like a 12-inch square of this in the middle. So I think what I should do is cut a 12.5-inch piece all the way down this way, and then I can cut squares off. So we have got our 6 feet marked out, and then I know that I want to put a 12-inch square in the middle. When you're drawing out a quilt, you do not draw out your seam allowances, you work those out afterwards. So I know that these little squares, there's 4 squares here that they all measure 12 inches, so I know that half of that and then half of that is going to make a 12-inch square. So the next thing I think would be really, really cool is if I used this border print here and actually did like a mitered corner, so that takes it out to the first 4 feet that we did in a square. So I have to decide which bit I like. I think I like this green here, so I need a 1/4 inch over that. I'm not so fussed on this orangey colour. So 6.5 inches would be to here. That and the green would be the pattern. So if you think about having it ending on this colour, and then it also means you've got something here for later on if you want to. Now the beauty of doing it like this with squares on is if I really wanted to, I could literally just cut everything else into squares and have squares all around it. But I don't think I want to. I think I might do that on the last bit, but for this next piece all around here, I think I want this made up of different things. So I think it would be really nice to do quite a wide border of this. So maybe this should be a 6-inch thing around here. So that would be, okay. So maybe if we have this fabric, this one, and have that as this border going around here. Now I'm not going to bother mitering that. The only reason why I want to mitre that is because I think it will look nice. And then that leaves us this one. So I actually think it would be really nice to have maybe a little skinny border going around that in this green. I really like that green. So that could go around there. I think I would do that at 2.5 inches. So that would be a 2-inch border down there. So that leaves us 4 inches of pattern. Oh, maybe some more of this pink. So this rule measures 5 inches. Oh yeah, you could see actually a nice amount of paisley in that. Oh, I think that would be really pretty. So I just need to decide what to do around the last bit. And remember, there is actually, you know, another 6 inches. So there's 3 on either side, but I just think we'll worry about that as we go. I'll just add things on. It's so easy to add on strips. So I think probably the best thing is for me to start cutting out what I've decided on. Okay, I've done a lot of the cutting. The first square, easy enough to do. I wanted to have a paisley somewhere near the middle, which could have worked out better, but never mind. So this is supposed to be 12.5 inches by 12.5 inches, which it is, and that's not quite in the middle. What I might do is I might make a big like heart template thing out of this green, because I've still got quite a lot of this left. Then you'll have seen me cutting out the border print. Now I actually need to cut another piece out exactly the same as this, but it was really making my back hurt and it's quite fiddly and all the rest of it. And you'll have noticed that I cut this out with scissors. Now there's a reason for that. Usually all the rest of it cut out with a rotary cutter, only do change your blade. You'll see I was struggling with that. This is a border print on a cotton. There are so many things that can be out of true, and for us the important thing is not the accuracy of the seams at the end, but actually the illusion. So if I had measured this exactly, we'd be wandering over all over the place. So what I did is I followed this sort of magenta-y pinky purple line here, and I measured 1/4 inch from that all the way along. Just that was my reference point. And so then when I drew the line, I just joined up all the dots, and then I cut it out with scissors, because even though it looks straight, I'd have been sort of, you know, doing that all the way through. So I will be doing another piece like this with scissors so that I can have it so it looks right at the end. And then I need 2 pieces, because although on the inside this only measures 12.5 inches to stitch on here, at each corner it needs to measure 24.5 inches. We need a complete square on each corner all the way around. So we'll just try and carry on laying it out how it would look in the design. See, now it's really starting to take shape. You can see what it's going to look like. So we've got that in the middle there. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. I love it. And then after that I did a little piece here. Now I cut quite a lot of this because this is probably what I'm going to bind the quilt in anyway. So I thought, oh, I'll just keep hacking off 2.5 inch pieces. So that'll go in like so. So there's the middle border, tile print, something to break it up. And then what did we say after that? We said the pink paisley. So oh, that was really sad. I had some pieces left, and I cut 4 inches, not 4.5. So I stuck that on the kind of emergency pile. It will get used, but it was a little bit annoying because I could have got a few more bits out of it. So then the pink there, so pink paisley there, and so we were already getting up to a sizable quilt. So we've got to find 12 inches all the way around. See, this is what happens when you come up with these ideas. Just go, oh yeah, that works. Okay, well maybe a good thing to do would be to put all of the bits that I have cut together. So if I put all of this here, what I've got left is this. The border print is going to have, we're going to take out this bit. So it will have this piece in it. Now that's kind of interesting. I think it's about there that it gets cut. So, I mean, that's 3.5 inches. So there is quite a lot of that. So there is enough to go maybe all the way around. So let's look at the thing here. It's about 40 inches. So, and we need 48. I cut these wrong anyway. That's 3.5 inches, this is 4. What about if I put those on these bits? I think that look really cute. So there'd be like these pink corners. Right, I think what I'm going to do is go off camera for a minute, do some calculations, some exploration, some stuff, and I shall report back. Okay, so I went away and I didn't decide what to do next. I thought that the best thing to do was to cut out the rest of the pieces for mitering, which is what I've got on here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do a mitered corner. So I've got the 2 bits of the border print that I cut out with the scissors, and I'm going to stitch the first one on. I just need to take some pins out of this one. So the important things are when you're doing something like miters and you've got a specific end point. So in this bit we've got a smaller piece of fabric, this bit, and we're stitching a bigger bit of fabric to it. You need to be able to see where this begins and ends. So pin from this side to that side rather than the other way around, because you can't tell where it ends. And we're literally just going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance and just start right at the edge of the fabric. So I know where my 1/4 inch seam allowance is. If you don't know, if you get a rule and put it underneath and draw a line on your sewing machine, that can be really helpful. And we just want to stitch all the way just to the very edge, no stitches over. If you do stitch over, just pull the thread out. So it's exactly to the edge. Then we're going to take that out and we'll just have a brief detour on how to mark up your machine. So if you get a rule like this, on its marked 1/4 inch marks, whatever sort of rule you like to use, but you've got to be able to see through it. Literally put this under your machine, put your 1/4 inch, so I'm using this 1/4 inch mark here, put that where the needle comes down, put that underneath the presser foot, put the presser foot down to hold it in place, and then literally just hand crank and make sure that your needle comes into contact with that 1/4 inch line. And then with a Sharpie or a permanent marker, you draw a line all the way along here onto the plastic or metal machine. It will last for quite a long time. It will just wear off in time. I know people say, oh, I don't want to put marks on my sewing machine. At the end of the day, your sewing machine is a tool. I know it's nice if it looks pretty, and obviously if we were talking vintage metal Singer with beautiful painting on, obviously don't do that. But this is a tool, it's to help us do the thing. So back to mitering corners. So we've stitched on one piece here, and then I'm going to iron this in a minute, but to start with I need to stitch on the other piece as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to finger press this to the other side, just so it sits to one side, and then you need to get your piece of fabric that's going to form the other part of the mitre. I'll just give that a little finger press along there too, which is this piece. Make sure that it's going to wind up the same way round. So for me that's this, border is going on the outside, and what you're going to do is make sure the piece that's going to make the mitre overlaps Only a little, it doesn't need to be much, but we've got raw edges on here that need trimming up and everything. So make sure it overlaps just a little bit that way along that side, and then put your edges of your fabric together. Put in a guide pin right on that seam, because we can't stitch over that. Mustn't stitch over this at all, because we want a nice neat mitre. But with that seam folded over, you can put, and I always use, if you've watched any of my quilting or even dressmaking videos, I always use red pins as guide pins. So you can literally put a pin right in that seam, hold that piece of fabric in place, now turn it over, and you're going to pin that way. Normally I pin that way, but we're going to pin this way, and make sure you pull your fabric taut enough so that when we stitch up to it, we don't get any bulges or anything, and we're literally going to stop sewing at the stitch line that we just made. So I'm back on the square of fabric here with the fabric that we're mitering on the other side. So I suggest, if you're using this video as a tutorial for mitering, to watch it through all the way to the end before you start doing it. So I'm just pinning all the way to here, and then again, like we did for the other side, I shall put this under. I'm going to start right from the very edge of the fabric. And if you're worried about it coming undone, because we're not reversing backwards and forwards, just leave a reasonably long tail, and then you can pull it back if it comes a little bit loose. And when you get to this bit where you're trying to meet up, remember there's a guide pin there. Try and make sure everything's sitting as true as possible. Just take your time. So what we've got now is a square with two pieces of fabric that haven't been joined together yet. See there? So we've got a square with one piece, and then it's got a bit down the side. So what we need to do first is just give this a little bit of a press. It's a little bit fiddly, but don't worry, it'll be okay. So just to make sure that we've set the stitches along each side. I'm not going quite up to the corner. We've got the two border pieces stitched on to the square. There is a big overlap here, which you can see, so there and there. And we want to make a stitch line going at a 45-degree angle. So we fold over one piece, like so, and we want to make sure this is in a straight line. Now, if you can't do it by eye, use a ruler. Is that straight? You see that fits nicely down into there. So does that stitch line. So we press it and then pull the other piece out, and this has got to have its little hem turned over again. And what we'll do is we lay that piece down. So that gives us one line, and then we put this one next to it. So that's going to be our stitch line. I am going to do a little bit of cheating. Mitered corners do not have to be square. So this, I am trying to match up those pink lines again. Now I'm having to pull it a little bit, but it's fabric, it will stretch. This is not wood, so that's lucky. And then we're going to press that over like so. What I like to do is press them to the back. So turn the whole thing over to the back and do that line. See if you can flip that outwards. Now some people can start off on the back and do the whole thing. I can't. I don't know why, I just can't. So I'm just flipping that whole line out here. And then rather than having to guess on this one, what I'll do, just pinch it together until I've matched up. See, this crease will fit into this one now. So I'll just pull it slowly, slowly, slowly. I think that's roughly in the right place. Fold it back. Now I should have a line that goes both ways. Here we are. These are the lines that I want to try and match up. So I'm just rolling it with my finger and thumb until I can get that line to sit down, and just press it. What we need to do is put them right sides together now, but it should be a little bit easier with the creases that way. They need to be pinned so that they meet up. And I would start from this end here, but carefully working your way along with pins, making sure that the fold is met on both sides. So push it through, have a look, put the pin in. Okay, I've pinned it. That double fold line might have seemed like a faff, but it is accurate if you just are patient with it. So doing it on the front and then doing it on the back. And then what you do is you make yourself like a shadow line. You could draw on this if you wanted to at this point, following that shadow line. So it's pinned there, and I've matched it up on the back. It might look like it's not in the right place. Remember, this was folded before when it was too short. And then things like here, just here, at the edge of this fabric, there's a pink line here. So if I put those two pieces of fabric right sides together at that point and then stitch through there, I know that they're going to match up when they're taken round the corner. And then at this corner here where this square is, this is the square of fabric in the middle, I've pulled this all out, and where I left the threads long so I can see where the last stitch is. We want to stop on that last stitch. So now all we need to do is literally just follow that guideline all the way across, and then we're going to have our first mitered corner. Trust me, it's going to work. So I'm just going to stitch this in. For this you can start off the edge of the fabric, and I suggest you do a couple of catch stitches, you know, backwards and forwards. This is what it looks like on the back. It's just a line of stitching. A little sneak peek of what it looks like on the front. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is find some scissors. Just trim that off the back. Don't need that anymore. And then just set the stitches and then open up your mitered corner. It's not perfect, but it's about 1,000,000 years since I've done one of these, so I'm pretty impressed with how it's come out. It's not bad at all. So now we can just trim off on the back because we don't need this anymore. And when you're trying to use every scrap of fabric from a collection, we'll put that on the pile of possibilities for later. And I'm going to do something which I very rarely do in quilting, which is to open this seam out. Just think it will sit just a little bit flatter. And also you might find when it's stitched that it wants to flip this seam back over. So that's fine, just pressed it that way, it's fine. It was just while we were measuring and stuff. So now if I turn that back over, that's actually looking a lot better for the mitered corner. So that's how you do a mitered corner, and this is the first one I've done for 9 years, so it's not something I do very often. So I'm going to go and play with some more mitered corners, and when I come back and have anything to report I shall show you. Okay, so this is what the central square looks like. There we go, you can see it actually looks, wow, it looks so nice on camera. It looks really good. I did have to piece a bit here to make the last strip to go along. So we've done this bit and now we've just done that bit round there. So this is already cut. So this is the tile print, as I called it, which is this one. This is a lot more straightforward. I don't need to mitre the corners on this one at all. In fact, it's probably a pointless exercise. So literally what I'm going to do is stitch one strip to the top, one strip to the bottom, and then I'll do either side. And I think that'll be just fine the way that is. And then the next one after that is this one, exactly the same. I'll probably stitch one to the top, one to the bottom, one to either side, and I've got lots and lots of those. And then we get into the pink paisley, which I'm not sure, I think I managed to cut enough in the end, we'll see. I have actually cut out all of these now because I needed two for this border print on here, so I can measure those exactly. Do you remember we said we were going to put like this pink paisley again around the corner there? So what I'll do with those is stitch a piece of the pink paisley to either end and put that on. I did think about cutting them in half and trying to get them going opposite ways, and then I realised you can't because of the borders, so they do only go in one direction, so that's fine. Saves me the work. And then the reason why I didn't make any further decisions was, one, my brain was hurting from too much maths. I thought I'll just make up what I've got and cut out what I've got and get it to a certain size, and then I can make decisions and then I can visualise it too if I need to. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'll get it all the way to this bit here with those paisley bits, and then I've been putting everything that I've got left in a pile, which is here. So I've got some triangles from the mitered corners. There's one bit, you know, I said I stitched 3 bits together, I didn't need 2, so you know. So I've got those, I could probably do something with them. I've got one more bit of this, which I don't think I need. I've got this bit that didn't have the pink line. I've got a bit of the tile fabric, and I've got the green. So I think I will be able to make up something, but I'm not sure what at the moment. We'll see. So that's how far I've got. So I think I'm going to go and just stitch strips on. It's really that complicated. It's literally just me doing 1/4 of an inch seam allowance around the things. When I've got something exciting to show you, I shall. Okay, here we are. I have shown you a few updates, just wherever I can fit this quilt. I'm fast running out of space of somewhere that I can lay it out flat. I've added on, since the mitered corner, I've added on this border, which are called tiles, then green turquoise paisley on a green background, and then this pink. And what I've decided to do with these, because they're directional, so there's a very definite, you know, like the pointy bits there and the rounded bits there, I've decided to just follow those all the way around rather than choosing to have them going upwards and across and all of that. I didn't want to do any more cutting to flip it around the other way because I want to use as much fabric as possible. And then what I've had to do is piece stuff. I think you can probably see that the tiniest bit, that's all I was missing, was about 1 inch at that end, but it's fine, it doesn't really show. And then the one on the bottom's the funniest one though. So there's like this tiny little green slither. There's literally that much. So, but again, it's not going to show. So the next decision I'd made on the design was to use the chevron fabric. So I think I'm probably going to do it that way around. Depends where I want this. Do I want this here or do I want it up there? And what I'm going to do is use some of the pink offcuts on the ends to do just a square part here, like going around here, like the little corner thing. So I shall just do that. I'll have to do a little bit of careful sort of measuring and stuff, but I think I'll be all right. I think it should match up okay. So that was the last sort of proper decision I'd made, and then I was trying to do maths and all the rest of it yesterday, and it just wasn't working out. So I've come up with an idea, I have sat down and thought about it, of doing a sort of jumble block. And I've come up with 2 so far, and I think I've nearly come up with a 3rd of the offcuts that I've got. So I think what I'm going to go and do is, rather than mess around with the chevron bit for now, I think I'm going to go and play with these. One of them was to use 6.5 inch squares and just stitch them together, because a lot of these were 6.5 inches. And then another one was to use a 6.5 inch square, 2.5 inch strip, and then 4.5 inch squares around there, because remember this finished size has to be 12.5 inches to fit along the top. And I think I've just come up with a 3rd one, which is to use, you know, do you remember the offcuts of the, let's put the paper down, you can see it better, the offcuts from the mitered corners? I turned them into half square triangles. I literally just stitched them all together like that. And then what I did was I took the smallest one and sized that to something that was usable, and then made them all the same size. So I think what I'm going to do is, with these, I think I'm going to do like a log cabin and just keep bringing it out with whatever pieces and strips I've got, so that'll sit in one corner rather than going all the way around. I'll just keep doing that. So I'm going to go and make up some example blocks, and I'll show you what they look like. That was a plan that got modified very quickly. So it's not going to be 20 squares that measure 12.5 inches. There is no way I can make these few scraps make 20 squares. Even with, there was quite a lot of this left over, I would have been able to get 3 12.5 inch squares out of that. And I think at a push, if I'd have used everything, I might have made it to 10. So we have changed our plan. It is now, they're still going to be sort of like jumble squares, but instead of doing big ones, I'm going to go for 6.5 inch and do that all the way around. So there's quite a lot of these, there's more here, and I will intersperse them with other things. So I have this, which isn't quite big enough. I've got some offcuts here, this pink that I cut off of a strip. So I'm going to stitch that along like that, and then I shall cut 6 inch squares out of that, however many we get. A reasonable amount, which is nice, but obviously now it's not 20 that measure 12.5, I need 40 that measure 6 to go all the way around. So far we've got 1, 2, 8 there. Then I've got these 4, which I'm still going to do like log cabin, but I worked out how to make them up to 6.5 inch squares by stitching these strips on. I only need to do 4 of those. I've only got 4 half square triangles. So they're still being done like that. So that's that one. So it's really just a question of trying to be as creative as possible. Oh, I've just found another bit there. Oh, that might actually make, that's off a different bit. That probably is 6.5 inches. So there's another couple there. So I will literally just go through and get as many 6.5 inch squares as I can until the fabric's gone. So this is all we've got. It's going to look amazing. It's going to be very bright. I am so glad I went to consult this, because I was literally just about to start measuring on here. Remember, I did it to sort of scale. The whole point of putting that strip with the chevron and everything was to start using up that 12.5 inches left. And I was thinking, how did I manage to get it so wrong on calculation? But actually, if we add 6.5 inches, the finished size will be 6 inches, obviously there. We are so close to what I originally calculated on size. That's pretty good. It's not as bad as I thought it was. Okay, it's pep talk time. My math skills have failed me. I'm actually quite good at maths, not too bad at all. But there are days when it's like someone changed all the rules. Someone actually changed the measurements, how it all works. It's probably my age, but anyway. I've come on here to tell you, looking at this pile of travesty fabric, I'm a really experienced quilter, and I have been patchwork and quilting for 30 plus years, and there are some projects that you're really looking forward to, and when you come to do them, it is just a nightmare. This is one such project. So I have been longing to do this for my mum. I really wanted to make her a beautiful quilt. It will be beautiful, and at the end of it I will be so pleased that I have done it. But nothing has gone right. It's just one of those things. And I'm here to say to you, if you have just started patchwork and quilting, there will be projects like that. There will be times when you think, is it me? It's not you. There's too many things to think about. There's too many things going on in your life. And I think it's important to play very loud music and just focus on fabric. That's my advice. Just don't beat yourself up about it. It's always fixable. At the end of the day, this is fabric. You can add bits to it. You can make it the right size. You can cut another bit. And if it really goes wrong and you totally run out, just stick something else in or make the quilt smaller. I'm not going to have to do any of those things because actually I managed to check back on my measurements and my diagram and everything, and actually pre-cut the binding for the end. So I actually calculated and said actually about 4 times in a row, but anyway, calculated exactly how long the binding is going to be by adding all this together. That was the whole point in very roughly doing a grid of what I knew to be the finished size would be 12-inch squares, because it makes things like calculating bindings ahead of time so much easier, and it's not a complicated thing to do. So I've done that now. So now I've actually got loads of fabric left. I'm just going to go for it. If I end up with a reasonable amount of fabric left over, what I'll do is I will do 2.5-inch width pieces and literally just stitch them together. It doesn't matter how long they are, whatever. I don't think I'm going to have enough fabric to do that because I'd want to go all the way around. If I do, that's what I will do with the scrappy bits. Other than that, I might give them to my mum because she loves scraps and go, there you go, you like scraps, do something with those. And obviously anything that's sort of bigger than 2 inches you can use for a hexagon. So, you know, just saying. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here and say, don't give up. We all have days like that, me included. I would say probably half my days are like that. It's just that I won't be beaten. And I love fabric so much, and I love sewing so much. Most of all, I like designing stuff. So here we are. Haven't actually got much further than the other day. I've done a lot of stuff that you can't see yet, all the squares to go across the top and everything. I'm holding it up for reference so you can see how big it is. What I'm going to do is call it a day at this point. I will finish it, and when it's finished I will put the pictures up on Instagram because I have started using Instagram again. Yay! So thanks as always for joining me, and I will see you again very, very soon. Okay, bye!